What if a single meeting with a spiritual giant could ripple through a lifetime, transforming pain into harmony? Picture this. Tina Turner. Yes, the Tina Turner, the electrifying American singer whose voice could shatter mountains, didn't just conquer stages with her wild energy and soul-searing songs. She crossed paths with His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, a man whose quiet smile holds the secrets of centuries at spiritual events in Europe. Or so the story whispers to us, dangling a thread of mystery that begs to be unraveled. Who was this woman, really, behind the sequins and the spotlight? What drove her to seek the wisdom of a Tibetan monk exiled far from his homeland? And what does it mean to stand at the crossroads of rock and roll and enlightenment? Let's plunge into this tale, not with cold facts alone, but with a philosopher's curiosity and a dreamer's heart, chasing the echoes of a life that danced between suffering and transcendence. Imagine a girl named Anna Mae Bullock, born on November 26, 1939, in the dusty, sun-scorched fields of Nutbush, Tennessee, a place so small it barely clings to the map. She wasn't born a queen. She forged herself into one, rising from the humblest of beginnings to become the queen of rock and roll. Oh, what a journey it was. In the 1960s, she stormed the world as half of the Ike and Tina Turner Revue, her voice a raw, untamed force that blended soul, rock, and rhythm and blues into something electric, something alive. She danced like a wildfire, her legs a blur of defiance, her spirit uncontainable. By the 1980s, after clawing her way out of an abusive marriage to Ike Turner, a nightmare that could have broken anyone, she reinvented herself as a solo titan. Hits like What's Love Got to Do With It and Private Dancer didn't just top charts, they rewrote the rules of resilience. Over 6 decades, she sold 180 million records, claimed 12 Grammy Awards, and became a legend whose name still sends shivers down my spine. But here's the twist that makes my heart leap. Beyond the glitter and the roar of the crowds, Tina was a seeker, a soul hungry for something deeper than fame. Now, let's rewind to those Tennessee days. Long before the world knew her name, Anna Mae grew up in a world of cotton fields and clapboard churches, where the air hummed with gospel hymns and the weight of segregation pressed down like a summer storm. Her mother, Zelma, was a factory worker with a sharp tongue and sharper dreams. Her father, Floyd, a sharecropper whose hands bore the calluses of endless toil. They split when she was young, leaving Anna Mae and her sister Alan to navigate a fractured home. But oh, the music! It was her first salvation. Those Sunday mornings in the pews of Spring Hill Baptist Church, where she sang with a voice that seemed too big for her small frame. Did she know then, as a child swaying to the rhythm of spirituals, that her path would one day lead her to a Buddhist chant and a Tibetan sage? I marvel at the threads of fate weaving through her life, unseen but unbreakable. The 1950s found her. In St. Louis, a teenager with stars in her eyes, watching Ike Turner and his Kings of Rhythm electrify the clubs. She was 18 when she grabbed the microphone one night, uninvited, audacious, and sang her way into history. Ike saw gold in her, named her Tina, and together they built an empire of sound. But empires crumble, don't they? Behind the hits, Proud, Mary, River Deep, Mountain High, lay a tyranny of violence. Ike's fists turned their marriage into a prison, and Tina endured for 16 years, her spirit bruised but never broken. What keeps a soul alive in such darkness? Was it the echo of those childhood hymns? A flicker of hope she couldn't name? In 1976, she fled, penniless, terrified but free, crossing a highway with nothing but 36 cents and a mobile credit card. I can't help but cheer for her, this warrior in a torn dress, running toward a horizon she couldn't yet see. Enter Buddhism, stage left, in the early 1970s. A friend introduced her to Nichiren Shoshu, a sect rooted in the teachings of a 13th century Japanese monk who believed chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo could unlock the universe within. Imagine Tina, battered and weary, sitting cross-legged in a Los Angeles apartment, her voice, once a weapon of performance, now a prayer. "I chanted for my life," she'd later say, and oh, how those words hit me. She chanted to escape, to rebuild, to rise. By the time she walked away in 1976, that chant was her armor, her lighthouse, her rebellion against despair. "The wound is the place where the light enters you," Rumi wrote, and Tina's wounds? They let in a flood of light that dazzled the world. Fast forward to 1994, and she's in Switzerland, Küsnacht, a postcard-perfect town where the lake glints like a mirror and the Alps loom like philosophers lost in thought. She'd met Erwin Bach in 1985, a German music executive with kind eyes and a steady hand, and together they built a sanctuary far from the chaos of her past. They married in 2013, a quiet vow after nearly 30 years of love, but long before that, Switzerland became her canvas. Here, she stepped off the stage. Her final tour ended in 2009, and into a quieter rhythm. Did she feel the weight of those years lifting as she gazed at the water? Did the mountains whisper secrets she'd been too busy to hear? In 2007, she joined forces with Regula Kurti and Dechen Shakdagse for the Beyond project. Oh, what a vision it was. Buddhist mantras tangled with Christian prayers. Tina's voice a golden thread stitching east to west, pain to peace. I listen to those albums sometimes, and it's like hearing the heartbeat of the world, raw, tender, eternal. But the spark for Beyond? It flickered to life on August 21st and 22, 2005, in Einsiedeln, Switzerland, at an interreligious ceremony that felt like the universe holding its breath. The Benedictine monastery of Einsiedeln, with its Baroque spires and ancient stones, hosted a gathering of souls. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, the exiled leader of Tibetan Buddhism, and Abbot Martin Werlin, a Christian monk with a poet's soul. They came to weave a dialogue of peace, to prove that faith need not divide. And there was Tina, 65 now, her hair still a defiant crown, her eyes alive with something deeper than stardom. She met the Dalai Lama that day. Can you see it? A woman who'd sung her way through hell, standing before a man who'd walked through exile with grace. "The purpose of our lives is to be happy," he said, and I wonder, did she feel that happiness seep into her bones? Did his laughter, a sound like bells on a Himalayan wind, linger in her dreams? Let's linger on the Dalai Lama for a moment, this figure who seems both of this world and beyond it. Born Tenzin Gyatso in 1935 in a remote Tibetan village, he was named the 14th Dalai Lama at age 2, a child plucked from obscurity to lead a nation. By 1959, China's invasion forced him into exile, and he's lived in India ever since, a shepherd without a flock. Yet his voice reaches millions. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner, a teacher of compassion, a man who says, "My religion is very simple. My religion is kindness." In Europe, he's a frequent pilgrim, Germany, France, Switzerland, spreading messages of unity. That 2005 visit to Einsiedeln wasn't just a stop, it was a beacon, drawing seekers like Tina to its light. I imagine her watching him, her Buddhist practice deepening in his presence. Did she see a mirror of her own journey? Exile, not from a land, but from a life of torment? That meeting wasn't a footnote, it was a crescendo. The Dalai Lama blessed the Beyond album in 2009, his words in the liner notes a quiet thunder. This music could bring peace to many hearts and bridge the chasms between us. In 2011, Tina told Lion's Roar about that day in Einsiedeln, her voice soft with awe. It shaped her, this collision of her Nichiren chants with his Tibetan wisdom. But here's where the mystery thickens, where my philosopher's soul stirs. Was it once or many times? The statement, spiritual events in Europe, hints at a saga, a trail of encounters across a continent. Yet the evidence anchors us to 2005, to Switzerland, her adopted home until she left us on May 24, 2023. Her final years were shadowed by illness, a stroke in 2013, kidney failure, a body that betrayed the spirit within. But her legacy, it's a wildfire that won't fade. Let's dream for a moment, shall we? Imagine Tina and the Dalai Lama in a quiet corner of that monastery, the air thick with incense and possibility. Your voice carries the pain of the world, he might have said, his eyes crinkling with warmth. And yours carries its peace, she replies, her Tennessee drawl softened by years abroad. They laugh, her raspy chuckle, his gentle chime, and talk of suffering, of joy, of the threads that bind us all. Did it happen? No record says so, but my heart insists it could have. Or picture her at another event, say, a 2009 teaching in Lausanne, Switzerland, the Dalai Lama's voice weaving through a crowd. She's there, older now, her steps slower, listening as he speaks of impermanence. All things change, he says, and she nods, knowing too well the truth of it, her fame, her pain, her body, all fleeting. But reality pulls me back. The Dalai Lama's European tours, Germany in 2008, France in 2016, don't mention Tina. Her life grew private after 2009. Her health a fragile dance. Switzerland was her orbit. Kusnacht her haven. The 2005 meeting stands alone, a jewel in her crown. But events? I ache for more. Did she slip into other gatherings, unnoticed, a quiet pilgrim among the throngs? Or was one encounter enough, a single note that resonated through her final decades? The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes, Marcel Proust wrote. And Tina's eyes, oh, they saw the world anew after that day. Now, let's wrestle with the statement itself. Tina Turner, American singer, met the Dalai Lama at spiritual events in Europe. She was American, gloriously so. Her voice was born in the South, honed in St. Louis, unleashed on the world, a Chiu sound that's as American as jazz or the open road. Even in Switzerland, citizenship swapped, she carried that identity like a torch. And she met the Dalai Lama, yes, in 2005, in Einsiedeln, where faith met faith, where her journey met his. It was a spiritual event, no doubt. Prayers rising, hearts opening, a moment that lingers in the ether. But events? Plural. My soul leaps at the possibility. My mind reins it in. Switzerland is Europe, sure, but did she roam beyond its borders, Paris, Berlin, London, chasing his wisdom? The evidence says no, yet the dreamer in me whispers, what if? I see her story as a river, turbulent in Tennessee, raging through the Ike years, steadying in Switzerland, and finally meeting the vast ocean of the Dalai Lama's presence. One meeting, documented and real, birthed Beyond, a project that's more than music, it's a philosophy, a plea for unity. But the plural teases us, suggesting a pilgrimage I can't prove. Did she need more than one? Did that single day in 2005, her strength meeting his serenity, fill her cup to overflowing? We are twice armed if we fight with faith, Plato said, and Tina fought, oh, how she fought, with faith as her melody, her shield, her roar. Her life invites us to ponder the big questions. What is resilience? Is it the voice that sings through brokenness or the silence that follows? What is a meeting? Two bodies in a room or two spirits touching across time? I imagine her in Kusnacht, late in life, The lake reflecting a sky she'd conquered, the memory of the Dalai Lama a quiet hum in her chest. She didn't need a dozen events. She needed one that mattered, one that echoed through her chants, her songs, her stillness. The statement is a half-truth, a spark wrapped in a riddle. I'd refine it. Tina Turner, an American singer, met the Dalai Lama at a spiritual event in Switzerland, Europe, in 2005. It's sharp, it's true, and yet it leaves room for the soul to wander. Tina's tale isn't just hers, it's ours. It's the farmer's daughter who became a queen, the battered wife who became a warrior, the rock star who became a seeker. It's the Dalai Lama, a monk in exile, meeting a woman in exile from her past, their paths crossing in a fleeting, eternal instant. It's the music that carried her, the faith that lifted her, the mountains that cradled her. The life of man is of a span, but the life of the spirit is boundless, said Heraclitus. And Tina's spirit? It's boundless still, singing, chanting, dreaming, somewhere beyond the veil. Isn't that the truest philosophy? To find the infinite in a single blazing moment.